All right, welcome in everyone. We are live once again with the Workshop Wars Pro Playoffs. Today we'll have a live set doubleheader, starting it off with Benanji versus Rodrixs, who are doing the draft right now. And afterwards, maybe not, let's get ahead of it too far, but after this set, we will be going into Freaking Andy versus Ark. But for now, let's stick to Benanji versus Rodrixs. This is the final set of the round of 12. And looks like Rodrixs is kind of randoming his civs picks here. Benanji actually picking some good civs, considering the maps. So I wonder if Rodrixs will go full random here. Of course, there are some civs globally banned here as well. They are not on the list of banned civs. They are instead just banned from the draft in general, given that they are in the playoff stage. And in the playoff stage, we banned the 4 most played and the 2 most banned civs. So not 4 most picked, but they actually needed to be played. And the list of that civs is Mongols, Persians, Lithuanians, Romans, Goths, and the Tupi. So they won't be available in the draft to either ban or pick. But it looks like Rodrixs is going full random here and actually getting some 6 civs. I would say Vikings is definitely a trade seas pick there. And I think Chinese could be very good on quick mats for Benanji as well. But Rodrixs just randoming all of his picks here. That's quite interesting. I wonder if he is that confident in his skill level here in his villager fighting that he just knows I don't care what civs I use. I will be better regardless. But I don't know what's going on there. Like, it is definitely intentional. And also Benanji randoming his last ban, but I think he just banned the 2 civs that he did not want to face at all. And I definitely can see Spanish, given that there is no mat in the map pool there with quick mats. Muisca could do some good rushes or also be very good in Castle H with their stuff. But in general, a lot of these civs, maybe except for Britons and Chinese, a lot of these civs are quite mobile with what they do for Benanji. For Rodrixs, of course, it's a bit more random, so I'm not sure if there is a strat there that he wants to go for. But right now, we're just waiting for the lobby to get set up. And once the lobby is up, we of course also have to deal with the spec delay. But so far, no lobby yet, as far as I can see. Could of course be the case that they hosted the lobby privately. That would massively screw things over here, but I assume these players are well versed enough in hosting lobbies. There it is. The lobby is up. Just waiting for the players to get ready. I almost clicked the link to join the lobby. Let's not do that. But there is a 2-minute spec delay, so that at least is correct. Just waiting on Rodrixs to join the lobby as well. And once again, this is the final set of the round of 12, and the winner of this set will face Duduju in the round of 8. And then the winner of the Duduju versus the winner of this set will face Overtaken in the semifinals, but that is maybe a bit too far ahead for now. But we have both players in the lobby. Elo relatively equal. There is a roughly 100 Elo difference, but at this level and with these settings, I'm not sure if that matters too much. I think on some of these maps it will come down to villager fighting, and that mainly goes for quick mats and Wangshuang Mountain Madness. And I think the maps that Benanji picked are a bit more skill based in terms of like trade seas. You definitely need to know how to play water and play water quite well. And for before math, it is basically aftermath, or not aftermath. It's the sense that it's before aftermath. So it plays like Fortress. You also start with the castles, and then you have a king as well. So if your king dies, you will also be defeated. But we will be starting it off on the Dutch Blitz, which is somewhat prone to Vil fighting, but not entirely, I would say. There have been sets or games where the villager fighting was at a minimal on this map, as far as the ones I've seen. But players are in game. We have 20 more seconds to go. Downloading match content failed, so let's try that again. So let's get this set up. Right, that looks good. And I do see the civs here. It is a Japanese versus Khitans. Japanese for Benanji, and of course Khitans then for Rodrixs. We are loading into the game. Capture H is loading as well. And there we go. Let's switch the scene. And here we are. It's the final set of the round of 12 in the Workshop Wars Pro Division. As we have in the red Rodrixs playing as the Khitans. And we have a scout fight. So both players immediately went for the same workshop. Now HP is slightly ahead there for Rodrixs. But with Benanji here at the workshop, of course, means that he already claimed the workshop. This could mean that we could send a villager out to the other workshop. Instead, Rodrixs is sending a villager over to this workshop, fairly confident that the scout fight will go in his favor. Benanji instead is choosing to just run away. Another villager roaming over to the workshop on the other side of the map, but with the Vil and the scout here, Rodrixs is basically guaranteed to eventually get the workshop. The other workshop is also claimed by Rodrixs, so it's currently 1-1. In the time that the villager was not here and the workshop was not claimed, Benanji did get a nice rest collected lead, and Rodrixs will immediately start walling here, trying to protect the workshop. And I have to say, it is a quite wallable, like, we wall here as well. Of course, this is a bit of a bigger wall, and it's a lot of wall to protect, but definitely not undoable, especially with double trade workshop income. Loom now coming in for Benanji as well. So he might be thinking about going out, trying to reclaim the workshop, as we have the scout from Benanji reclaiming the workshop. Rodrixsville was roaming around there. So villager could definitely just fight the scout there. But I think it's fairly wise of Benanji to keep his scout here. Let's see, his scouting is not looking amazing in terms of knowing what his opponent is doing. But knowing that you have the rest income from the workshop, definitely worth it. Another interesting fact, Benanji is going out to the water to get some fishies. Bears here are in favor of Benanji trying to Vil fight, trying to kill the scout. Another villager here for Benanji as well, and I think Rodrixs will have to abandon here, as Benanji is not fighting but just simply trying to block the villager so that the bears can get the kill. Meanwhile, Scout went over here for Rodrixs. Benanji on a very, very low HP Scout with only 5 HP. There is a full HP Vil, but the low HP Vil here from Rodrixs with the bears still following will take care of the villager eventually, and the Scout for Benanji finally bites the dust here. And I think it would be very nice if Rodrixs would simply try to block the Vil instead of trying to let it get away, but Benanji is not really microing here, perhaps looking elsewhere. Villager down to 14 HP. 4 fishing ships out for Benanji. Rodrixs just got his dock up and is getting his first fishing ship now, so it's quite delayed on that. Still bringing in some boars, has control of both of the workshops. And with walling off the workshop on the left side of the map, definitely in a good position to at least keep control of that. Like I said, not a lot of Vil fighting on this map, but with the eco lead from Benanji, he could definitely pull some stuff. But Rodrixs, of course, with being Ketons, having the pastures instead of the regular farms, brings in food quite a bit faster than a regular farm eco would do. Is also going out for some ibex. Benanji up to the feudal age though, with 1 militia in queue and nothing yet for Rodrixs, who is floating quite a bit of gold because of the workshop control. Now both workshops in his control, but one more villager. This is the low HP villager from earlier that I think will die to the bear, or will at least need to pull off some crazy quick walls. Villager, 2 HP, and villager survives for now. Scout still roaming around. Bear cannot pull the diagonal. That would have been my worry there for that villager. But Scout Cavalry still just chilling next to the trade workshop that is unwalled. And then we have one idle vill here. And I think that one villager could eventually just make either a lumber camp or just continue walling. There are 4 militia, soon to be men-at-arms. Keep in mind these are Japanese men-at-arms, so they will attack faster starting feudal age. And they will melt through this wall even without having arson. But Rodrixs, now being in the feudal age, can choose to stonewall, which I think is the correct play. But that is a lot of stonewalling that he needs to do. The rest collect though relatively even though Benanji has the eco lead. And arson now coming in, and with the men-at-arms wisely splitting up, will mean that the villager will have to walk further and further to keep this workshop secured. And I think the men-at-arms will break through here eventually. Especially with the amount of men-at-arms that there are. A market now coming up here. But it does not matter, there was a piece that was missing. I think Rodrixs noticed. In the meantime though, the villager that was walled in, the 2 HP vill, I don't think she can survive. But she made an archery range. Benanji gave up on the villager. Archer will now fight the bear. Meanwhile, market will complete, I think. But will need to be repaired. And I think with the archers here, at least Benanji is pushed off from pressuring for now. But with the men-at-arms still roaming around, does not have control of any of the workshops. His fishing eco is looking okay, but compared to the 9 fishing ships from Benanji, I would say Rodrixs is not in a great position. Although if he can clear the men-at-arms here, which will require more micro, he will regain control of these, the one trade workshop here at least. And with all the stone walls, we'll need to stonewall here as well. Has a good position to keep control of the trade workshop on the left side of the map. On the right side though, I would say that Benanji will most likely keep control of that one. Meanwhile, there are men-at-arms here, as the man-at-arms and the villager are having a standoff of sorts. The man-at-arms decide not to attack. There will need to be some quick walls here. Although both men-at-arms are not full HP, could definitely still do some damage if going on check. But being on stand ground, they are not that scary. Meanwhile, on water, there is also some stuff going on. I'm hearing Hulks battling over here. There is scout fighting going on over here. Scouts, archers, everything is fighting. 3 archers and a skirm. And then 3 archers and a scout. And for now, the archers decide to just simply run away. Now, there's still one archer just chilling at the trade workshop. Meanwhile, full stone walls all around, except for around the market. So that would be the weak spot there for Rodrixs' trade workshop, as we have some hulks being taken out by archers, archers being taken out by skirms. The circle of life. And after all of this fighting, we go relatively even. Villager count is dead even. The only difference is 9 fishing ships versus 3. Both players currently control 1 workshop, but Benanji 1000 rests collected ahead. Now the question is, what will he do with that advantage? As we have some Hulk on Hulk action with some skirm support. And skirms and archers will definitely help melting those Hulks. But with the numbers advantage here, I think the Hulks should win on their own as well. Spear goes down and the man-at-arm will go down as well here. So Rodrixs could potentially think about maybe sniping some vills. Villagers though run away into the tower. Now keep in mind that stone is the only resource that does not trickle in with the workshops. As both workshops are secured, although I would say that the Benanji workshop is a bit less secure. And welcome in Frozen. And I do agree that they should be countered by demos. I also think in general demos should receive a bit of a buff after the water rework. We have more Hulk on Hulk action. We have some scouts diving under the towers. Villager surviving, maybe? Maybe? Villager lives on 3 HP. Provided that he will be put on a safe place later, I think he could see the end of the game. Benanji though, still putting on some pressure on water. Still only 4 fishing ships. Now for 10 fishing ships from Benanji. Rodrixs only 4. Of course the Japanese fishing ships definitely better as well. But Rodrixs managed to sneak a scout to the workshop to collect it at least shortly. I think 1 archer is not enough to deal with it, unless, of course, the scout is put on stand ground. And Castle Age is in for Rodrixs, who has 8 pastures. And Benanji here bringing in the vills. Forward tower. Skirms are here to defend, but I don't think the skirms alone will be enough against the villagers, especially since there are some low HP skirms there as well. Man-at-arms versus scouts. And the tower will go up. Villagers can garrison. And the tower creep can continue. Stable here might go down. Will go down since there's no repairs. And I am not sure what Rodrixs will do once he is in Castle Age. 40 seconds away, has another stable. Of course is missing bloodlines, but has quite the nice rest count to go for step lancers. Although this stable now as well is being threatened by a fire ship. And Benanji is looking like he is in full feudal action here. Siege workshop coming down for Rodrixs immediately. As well as Bodkin Arrow. So that will help his skirms versus the archers, as some skirms are forward here. Benanji did use the market quite a bit there, but is up to the castle age as well. Has the eco lead by quite a bit. Villager count still relatively even, all things considering, but Rodrixs did lose all of his fishing ships, and the first Step Lancer will die to the Hulk and fire. That is not what you want to see. And the Japanese men-at-arms will start working away on the archery range, and potentially even the barracks. Looks like they already took out the other archery range as well. Only one ram in the siege workshop, perhaps not the best unit there considering all of the men-at-arms that are roaming around. 10 men-at-arms with more in queue. And I think especially if the men-at-arms get upgraded into longswords eventually even, would pose a very big threat for Rodrixs. Rodrixs, though, even though he's behind in eco, still controls both of the workshops. Of course, this workshop very secure. I would really like it though if the market would get repaired there. But big fight here, Step Lancers versus the Men-at-Arms. The Men-at-Arms not doing too great there, especially with skirm support behind. But with the towers as well, I think all things considered, not a bad fight. First thing we see, medium warships. So it looks like Benanji really wants to fight water, even though there is not really a lot of water left to fight for, I would say. Like most of the fish over here is gone. There are still some deep fish here, but not the greatest amounts. And then places where you would want to fish are basically near Rodrixs base, so also not the safest of places to fish. Second TC coming down for Benanji here. The ram push though did clear up the towers. Villagers are forced to run away. Step Lancers will intercept and will get some Vil kills here. There is a very brave spearman there trying to help out and defend, but I don't think that will do anything. Benanji will lose some Vils. TC though will go up in time. Another brave spear. Spear actually gets the kill, I think. Or it could be the tower. And Benanji once again having the eco lead, having the military lead as well, and now Benanji here is walling off the workshop. So not really a lot of fighting over the workshops, both players with one workshop. Skirm's trying to do some damage on the wood line, not really a lot of reaction here going on for Benanji, as the Step Lancers are in as well. Finally a reaction. It was quite late. Quite a few low HP villagers, but the Step Lancers will die to the TC fire. As we have a siege workshop coming down for Benanji here, as as Rodrixs is going for his second TC. Pastures are expiring. Food count though still looking solid, even though there is only 8 on food currently. On water, we are still fighting. Still not sure what we're fighting over, as Rodrixs is trying to get back on water. I mean, there are still 12 fishing ships there for Benanji collecting fish. Even some fish traps that could potentially be dealt with by this Forgotten Hulk. Dev archers there versus the Hulks will help out. Hulks versus the fire. Always goes in favor of the Hulks. But down here, the fires and the Hulks are slowly but surely taking down the dogs. The Cav Archers there stepping in to help. They will not do a lot versus the fire, but versus the Hulks they will do great. And I think Benanji in a position where he has the eco lead, but not really the means to kill. And as I say that, the Cav Archers are in on the wood line and will need to be careful for the TC with these low numbers especially, but overall, not a bad game from Benanji so far. As the mangonel goes down to the Cav Archers from Rodrixs, and Benanji is chasing them with Cav Archers of his own. He's getting ballistics as well. Of course, no bloodlines for the Ketons. Japanese, though, could get bloodlines eventually. Japanese fishing ships are roaming around here. Not sure what happened there. That must have been a misclick. Or simply the fish ran out. And this is the closest fish for these fishing ships. Power on 128 HP. And the fire is dealing quite nicely with the Japanese Cav Archers. And then the skirms are there to finish it off. Pierced and roasted Japanese Cav Archers on the ground there. Slowly withering away. The villager did manage to wall everything, but did not manage to finish the gate. 100 HP short. 98.6%. And with it not being finished, it will have less pierce armor than regular gates, so you can see how fast it is going down. But with the Hulks there for Benanji, I think the gate will survive a bit longer. 2 fires versus a Hulk. With some skirms behind. Army count relatively even once again. Mainly Cav Archers versus mainly skirms though. So the Cav Archers cannot take a fight head on, even though they are Japanese Cav Archers. But of course the Japanese Cav Archers have the advantage of having the mobility. And I would not mind having like 2 or 3 knights there just to deal with all the skirms there. I think the Cav Archers though could definitely be trying to raid around the base. A lot of exposed eco, especially behind the wood lines. Of course the CA have the ballistics as well. No ballistics yet for Rodrixs, but I did see the university going up, or at least trying to get it up. The skirms are roaming around. And there's quite a lot of things going on all over the place. Hulk's trying to take down the dock here. Skirms taking out the mangonel. Cav Archers dealing with the skirms, or at least trying to. Second armor, ballistics and wheelbarrow all coming in for Rodrixs. Both players still control 1 workshop each. Fishing ships here with the fish traps are being threatened by Rodrix's armada on water. As Benanji is trying to deal with that. We're still fighting on water there. There is some Step Lancers trying to poke down the house. Villagers mining the gold. There is actually a hole, so the Step Lancers will get some Vil kills here, as the Cav Archers here try to deal with that. One villager very lucky surviving on 1 HP. But with the skirms and step lancers there. I think that villager might be toast. Yes, all the villagers on stone will die. With all that though, Benanji still has the eco lead. 63 versus 86. As we have a very forward castle here. Would like that castle a bit more forward though, so that it ranges the TC and the wood line. Right now it doesn't really deny a lot of resources. But it could of course be a very nice position to start your push from. As we see the Khitan eco, the pastures really kicking in. Rest collected though, quite far ahead for Benanji there. So the mangonel survives, but will need some repairs. And I would not be surprised if we see Benanji here, like he is floating 2,000 wood, could potentially go out to one of these islands. As we see Rodrixs dropping a mining camp up top. To get some more gold, to get some more stone. Counter castle on the bottom of the hill though for Benanji. And another siege workshop threatening the gold veil. Threatening the TC. The Cav Archers will have to deal with the Step Lancers, cannot deal with the Skirms. And with all of this pressure, only 9 on food currently for Benanji and Rodrixs with 24 on food. Benanji cannot deny the forward siege workshop, which is quite unfortunate. And the Cav Archers, I think, will die here to the Skirms. Though Mangonel is coming. Not in time to save the Cav Archers. And the Mangonel did not get the repairs it needed, although will get some repairs now. Very low HP Skirms there. And the rocket card, I think, should still push from this position given that the castle now is up. Benanji. Rodrixs is the first one to click him. Safety C. Trade workshop still relatively safe. Other trade workshop is being contested, still with the unfinished gates. As Benanji is trying to escape some Cav Archers, trying to find some damage somewhere. Is ahead in eco, is ahead in military count. Did just finish Horse Collar, so that is not the greatest. But I think with the imp timing here from Rodrixs, Benanji could be in a tough spot. But as I say that, I did completely miss 6 rams filled with 14 samurai. And that will be enough to take down this castle. Especially since there is no siege support. The only siege out currently are 2 rams. Liao Daos are being created, but it will not be enough to stop the castle from going down. Especially if the samurai decide to hop out of the rams. And with that, Rodrixs will have to give up his forward position before Imperial Age is even reached, unfortunately. But Rodrixs did manage to snag the trade workshop, so is once again in control of both trade workshops. He's also taking down the archery range, so we'll have a bit more safety in having that workshop. Rodrixs though, reaching imp, what is the first thing we see? What will we see? We see more Step Lancers. Does not really have a lot of rest to do a lot of upgrades. Needs to be careful with the samurai hopping out of the rams there. We will see Elite Step Lancer coming in. Elite Step Lancer for 4 Step Lancers, 3 Step Lancers. Does not feel great. Especially if the stables you're producing out of are being taken down. Castle and a workshop both on the same spot. Castle removed, placed even more forward, more samurai are there to support. And I think with this, Benanji is in a great position to take game 1 versus Rodrixs, who went imp. As we now also see pikemen researched. Not the worst against the step lancers we're seeing. Although I think Rodrixs currently is really struggling, trying to find an answer to all the military that is on the field. Simply does not have the eco, even with the trade workshop. And GG is called, and Rodrixs loses game 1. Benanji will win it with 41 Cav Archers made, 38 Samurais, and 36 Warhawks. We can see there's not a lot going on there in the Dark Age. Not a lot of will fighting either from either player. But I think going in for Rodrixs was kind of a mistake. There wasn't really anything he was able to do with his imp. His forward position was denied by the ramp push, and then that ramp push simply strolled forward. APM wise, players are roughly the same. That is not something you see a lot. Eco wise, I think Benanji, even though technically I think Ketons should be ahead with all the pastures, Benanji was ahead partly because of the trade workshops. Right, let's go back to the drafts. Yes, we also need to update the score there. Benanji did take game number 1. And we saw Japanese win and Ketons lose. But up next we will have Quick Mats, the Nomad map in the Workshop Wars. The spec delay has ended. All we need to do now is wait for the game contents to load. And for Capture Age to realize that we are in game. And there we are. Alright. In the red, we have a Rodrixs playing as the Burmese. Already made a barracks. Is now housed because of it. Has not even finished his TC. And is delaying his TC by going out to get the workshop. Now, at the beginning of the map, all players will be aware of the positions of the workshops. They will, however, not be aware of where their opponent is, as there are no 3D lines. But with the militia already out, you can see the rest slowly but surely trickling in. I think Rodrixs is in a good position here to get most, if not all, of the workshops here, as there is only one workshop currently in Benanji's control. And with Benanji's TC position, not really in a great position there to get that one back, at least, the one that he still controls, if he ever loses control of it. Will, however, get one. Would have surely thought that he would go out for the boar there as well, but apparently not. Rodrixs, though, only 3 militia, 1 there. Surprised the one near the barracks actually got taken away. Not sure by what, though. I don't really see anything around. And welcome in, Chipmunk. I am also curious to see how it will play out, but once again, players are relatively close, and I think Benanji put himself in a terrible position by seeing the corner of the map. As we now have a villager trying to go for the boar, but with the militia being there, is threatened by that. Rodrixs, though, with going for the early militia, early barracks. And Rodrixs also taking the boar now that this villager wanted to take. I definitely lost my train of thought there with what I was saying because I got distracted by the boar. I think what I wanted to say was, by putting your TC in the corner, you're definitely putting yourself in a huge disadvantage here. Simply because I think the trade workshops will always roughly spawn in the same positions. There's always one in the middle guaranteed, and then the 5 on the outside are not guaranteed to be in the same position, but it's always like roughly like this star formation. So having a TC that is slightly more towards the center, I think, would be more advantageous. Simply because you can then just simply defend one a bit more easily, and one TC in the corner like this, really begging to just get, especially if you lose control of all the workshops like right now. I think if we go to the rest collected here, already starting to pull ahead for Rodrixs, even though he is behind by 5 eco units. I think that says it all about how powerful the workshops actually are. But Berbers, of course, not a terrible civ on Nomad. Although the rest, it's also not looking great for Benanji here. As this gold can quite easily be threatened by a position from Rodrixs. The gold and stone in the back could still be taken. Definitely the gold could be a bit more secure. As we finally see Rodrixs going out to water as well, in the same position that Benanji is already on water. And Benanji has the res here to start thinking about going to feudal. Rodrixs not quite there yet, but once he gets there, as Rodrixs currently housed, and most of his villagers are on wood there. Let's see. I have a villager versus militia here. I think the villager has the advantage there. Just barely though. 1 HP villager captures a workshop. And Benanji is up first, but Rodrixs not too far behind. And I would not be surprised to see Rodrixs here drop a second dock. Try to contest water. Because I think cutting off Benanji from all the water that he has, and as I say that, of course, the dock gets dropped. I think cutting off Benanji from all his water. 7 fishing ships, all 7 are here. That will definitely be a huge blow to his eco. He still has the berries here. But that is only 600 more food, and Benanji decides to drop the dock, decides to drop the mining camp. There is a militia that wanders over. We'll see the vills. But I don't think Rodrixs saw that. He was able to see it, but did not see it. And feudal is reached. Stable for Benanji. No water investment yet from either player. And as I say that, of course, we get 1 Hulk from Benanji, 2 Hulks from Rodrixs, and we have a archery range coming up for Rodrixs, who will get the man-at-arms upgrade with 7 militia. I think that is not a bad call. And we will get a tower that will threaten the berries and a part of a woodline. Of course, no fletching, so could be a bit bigger range there eventually. First scout though is out. Villagers will need to fight that. Men-at-arms are not really in the position to help defend that, as they are threatening the gold there. The villager also fighting the tower. No villagers on stone for either player, as we have a counter tower coming up. Villager going down, scouts not being vill fought. Villager goes down, tower goes up for Benanji. And Rodrixs finishes his tower, garrisons all the villagers inside. In the meantime though, mining camp got deleted. Villagers fighting the tower underneath the tower from Rodrixs. But I think Rodrixs in general is just at such an advantage, having the workshops, having over 1,000 more rests collected already. So we have Rodrixs. There's still some fish here for Benanji. I think Rodrixs might have missed that. But the forward tower will go down. Villagers did eject and are on the run. Men-at-arms currently going back home. Or are they? There's still 1 spearman being created out of the far away barracks, as the scouts are trying to reclaim some of these workshops. And with the low HP scout there, not able to take that workshop. The workshop in the middle is there for the taking though. But I think Rodrixs has done a great job of walling off Benanji here into the corner. Benanji did manage to get 1 workshop and the middle one as well. But Rodrixs up to the castle age and in a great position to drop the Burmese castle. And I agree with Chipmunk, it looks very 1-1. Not sure what Benanji can do being so far away from the castle age. Does not have a second building. Does not have the wood, the food, or the gold that he needs to click up. Wood, of course, being there for the second building. More army is coming in, and I would not be surprised if we see the GG call once Castle H reaches there for Rodrixs. So we now see an archery range being dropped. That will be the second building, but we still need 600 more food there before we can even think about clicking. As more villagers go down, eco-wise though, we're still roughly equal. Of course, part of that is Castle H will not produce villagers. But Castle H is reached. The stone is there, the villagers are on the way. Meanwhile though, water fights. Benanji looks like he is in a winning position there. The game paused. Let's see what's going on there. Not sure what's going on there. I think that might have been an accidental pause. All right. Looks like we're going back into the action. Castle is being dropped. All the army is here from Rodrixs. I think Benanji does not have the army there to fight that. The villagers stuck. A lot of low HP villagers in there as well, but they could potentially will fight. But with the archers there, the castle going up, I think it is a GG call, and GG is called indeed. Benanji calls it. Rodrixs takes game number 2, and we have tied this series up 1-1. In a very dominant game number 2 here from Rodrixs. Looks like he came in with a plan trying to control the workshops. And I also think Benanji just put himself in such a terrible position, putting his TC in the corner like that. Also maybe a bit unlucky with Rodrixs then being as close as he was. But I also think the initial opening there with the barracks just to secure the workshops, delaying the fish, paid off so much in the end if you look at the rest collected. Even though Benanji went out to fish way earlier. But with that, I will take a 1-minute break and I will be right back. Before we dive into game number 3. Alright, I am back. And we saw the Burmese, the Berbers there to tie up the series 1-1. As we have game number 3 has already started on Trade Seas. So without further ado, let's just hop right into it. As we will have the Vikings up against the Georgians. And randoming Vikings here for Rodrixs, I feel like is actually such a lucky thing there for him to happen. As we speed up a little bit to catch up to a lifetime, as we have a Rodrixs in the red playing as the Vikings. In my mind, definitely the only color for Vikings to be played in. And then in the gray, we have Benanji playing as the Georgians. And looks like both players went out to separate workshops. Although Benanji's junk did leave the workshop, so technically he could lose his only workshop. Neither player really trying to use the junk to trade yet. And Rodrixs not even going for a dock yet. Benanji though has the dock, has the fishing ships. And since both players are on one trade workshop, I think Benanji is setting himself up here for a very nice feudal timing to potentially start the pressure. Although, I might not be surprised if Rodrixs is trying to pull some weird FC kind of strat here. He just goes straight into longbows. I think that might be a bit tricky though, with the workshops being quite powerful. There's still no mill, but of course with the mule cart and the dock, Benanji has the buildings to click up, and then, as I'm talking about clicking up, Rodrixs is actually the first to click up. 17 villagers as the lumber camp. Will eventually need to go out for gold. And only one fishing ship. I think that is a questionable decision at best. Benanji though has 5, 6th one on the way, and as I say that 6th one hops out, 7th one on the way there. I think the 7th one might be a bit greedy there. As I do think that you will need to go out to gold there eventually, and maybe going out for this gold instead is not the worst. Benanji does see it. With the mule cart, of course, you can at least short term do that quite efficiently. But with Rodrixs being up feudal first, second dock about to complete as he reaches feudal. Let's see what we open with, and it is double fire opening. Triple fire opening, triple dock. Of course, Viking docks are a bit cheaper. As we get the double bid X. And Rodrixs managed to sneak both trade workshops. Like I said, I think Benanji, using his junk to scout around, did do a whole loop-de-loop around the island. But in the end, that cost him the trade workshop. So we have one fire here. I think the fire is going out for the fishing ship, and indeed it is. As we have the Hulk opening for Benanji, who only has 2 docks. Like I said, I think that 7th fishing ship may have been a bit greedy. Although with that, his food income is looking quite solid, of course. As we now see Rodrixs needing to put down his mining camp to go on gold. As we will have Hulk versus Fires and Hulk versus Hulks. Or Hulk versus Junk, I should say. Those ships look quite similar. And I think those Hulks will take care of the fishing ship there from Rodrixs, which in turn will grant the trade workshop at least for the short term. But no, actually not. The ships from Rodrixs are there to defend. Benanji is forced away. Food count though still looking very solid for Benanji, who still has the eco lead, has been housed quite a bit this game. And Hulks chasing Hulks. Fires though will try to fight with the new Hulks. Could perhaps start thinking about taking out docks, as we see fishing lines coming in as well. So delaying more warships for more eco efficiency. That is definitely a greedy play once again from Benanji, but definitely one I think is worth it at this point. We're 5 eco units ahead, and we will see the galleys starting to come out. No blacksmith yet. No blacksmith from either player. Because we have a big engagement there. Some fishing ships kind of tanking there as well. There's only 4 fishing ships left. But Hulks and Fires are attacking the one dock that has garrisoned the fishing ships. And a new dock here is being placed. As we have all of the ships here from Rodrixs. Fires, Hulks, and war galleys. Versus only Hulks and Fires from Benanji, who has made a 4th dock currently. Only 3 on gold, maybe a bit too little there, but with the workshop it might work out. I mean, the wood and food are definitely in a good position. And Benanji managed to at least hold on for now. As we start seeing the transition into pure galleys, I think, from Rodrixs. Definitely what you would want as the Vikings long term is to start thinking about the longboats. As we see the market and blacksmith coming up there for Rodrixs. Benanji still not really thinking about it, is floating the wood for it. As we see the market at least coming down, not the blacksmith though. But I would also not be opposed to getting fletching first, as once again Rodrixs has claimed the workshop on the bottom and still is there with 1 workshop on the top, ended by 1 lone galley, and with some big market use there. Castle Age is clicked, and I think we will see fletching clicked relatively soon once the rest is in. And as I say that, fletching is clicked. Of course, there is a 2-minute spec delay, so players cannot just listen to what I'm saying. But given that the players are roughly 1000 elo ahead of me, they will definitely know what to do. Scout will even get involved in the water fight. Usually that is something we only see on the bog aftermath. But not a lot of fish or a lot of warship production there from Rodrixs. I'm not sure if I agree with the full Hulk transition here from Benanji, knowing that you're up against the Vikings, knowing that longboats will very likely be your very next thing that you will see. Because we're still fighting over the workshop on top. This time protected by a 12 HP fire ship. And Castle Age is reached. I think we're still waiting on some res for Bodkin Arrow. And there we go. I would not be surprised to see medium warships, but then not a lot of new regular warships and only longboats from here. As we have 4 docks here for Benanji and also 4 docks for Rodrixs, although Rodrixs has spaced out his docks a bit more. Benanji's are relatively close to each other. And that could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing. Like, they are easier to defend, but if you start losing them, you will start losing them. And we will see some fires there. Fires will, of course, help with taking out all the docks a bit faster. Benanji now has control of both of the workshops. He's going for medium warships himself. Takes the fight a bit early, though. I think he's kind of forced to take that fight. There's a lot of hulks coming in from the back. Fires will need to be careful of that. Even without the medium warships upgrade, I think fires should be careful of that number of hulks. As we have a big water battle here. And I think that might be a water battle that could potentially decide the game if it goes well for one player in general, but so far it looks like a relatively equal fight there. Still a relatively equal fight, although Benanji is slightly pulling ahead in terms of military numbers. I think part of that is because there is a few war galleys in there. War galleys, of course, not the greatest against the fires, but against the Hawks there will be a lot better. And I'm surprised we're seeing full Hawk versus full Hawk. We are getting clinker construction in the university. Benanji getting that university. No university yet for Rodrixs, as he is putting it down, halfway completed. As both players heavily invested on water. Benanji, though, is pulling ahead in numbers, currently double, although the double is 9 to, or it was 8 to 4, currently it's 9 to 6. So kind of a reset there on water. Another dock there coming down for Rodrixs as he is getting clinker construction. Of course, clinker construction makes your ship move a bit faster, so you can decide when or when not to take a fight. We did see some longboats, but I think right now it's kind of past the window to go full longboats and just dominate. We will first need to deal with all the fires before we can start thinking about it. But slowly but surely, perhaps dwindling in a few longboats, not a terrible idea. Although I think this is where the dock placement from Rodrixs really starts hurting him, because a few of his docks just so far away from where his reinforcements are, that his forces are essentially split up, which will give Benanji the positional advantage. But longboat numbers are starting to rise here, as we have 10 currently on the field, 1 in queue. And with a big enough longboat number, I think Benanji should start to worry, but currently it is 19-8 on the water military count. As we have some fires here from Benanji starting to pressure the docks. There is one trade workshop defended by one single longboat from Rodrixs. Other trade workshop is completely up for grab. But with the pressure here from all the fires, I think Rodrixs, as the Vikings, might soon find himself in a position where he just cannot deal with the water from the opponent, which is something that I would have not expected going into this game. As slowly but surely the docks are being taken down, but as they are being taken down, they are being rebuilt. And I like the new position being a bit closer. We still need to find a way to deal with all the water from the enemy, though. Yes, I will. Right. We have secured the drafts for the Benanji versus Ark set as well. Although I would not be surprised at this point if we're casting those as Rex or just hopping into a game in the middle of the set. As Benanji is putting on a great show on how to fight Vikings on water. Although I think never count out the Vikings on water, as we have 22 fires now, and I think having the longboats and then going full hulks, definitely a good choice here. But we need to have more numbers here, as the longboats, they can be very maneuverable, especially into tight positions like this, but looks like it is a terrible fight nonetheless. And the fire numbers are just there for Benanji. With still double the military. This time though it is a 19 or 20 to 10. I'm not sure if that is a misclick from Benanji doing all those fishing ships. As he is putting down a few more docks. Is adding in more fishing ships. Did put down a second TC as well, so that's pulled ahead in villager count as well, as we finally see fletching coming in for Benanji. Not a bad shout as we're trying to transition into War Galley. Currently though, only one on food for Rodrixs, and that is one villager. Not sure where he or she is. But it's not on berries, because the berries have run dry, and we will see some farm placements now. Farm placement for neither player has farms currently. Although, of course, Benanji has had the fishing ships working for quite some time. And then, of course, with the workshop, that probably was enough to sustain some fishing or some villager eco, as we have gill nets coming in as well for the 9 fishing ships. And it looks like the Vikings are slowly but surely pushing things back, as we have ballistics coming in for Benanji. Rodrixs did get that earlier. And it looks like it's back to full fires from Benanji. Fires not great against the Hawks, as the Hawks die from Rodrixs, but has the, I think, mass of longboats, as we saw. Not sure what it was, but now we see siphons. We did see the other dock tech from the, I think we saw Carvel Hull for a split second there. Eco though is still pulling more and more in favor of Benanji, who has added in that second TC. No third TC. Will add in his second monastery. Of course, the monasteries for the Georgians will boost their eco a bit. But the rest here is slowly starting to, especially the wood count. If we look at the wood count, there is still quite a bit of wood on the map, but I think the biggest thing there is this wood line. If it slowly gets chopped, like this can be ranged, this wood line can be ranged, this wood line can be ranged, and whatever is left of this wood line can also be ranged. For Rodrixs, he still has quite some safe wood that he can chop. This wood line definitely can be ranged as well. But not in a terrible position there for Rodrixs. As I was going over the wood positions, suddenly it is 42 water units to 15. And I don't think against the Vikings you can come back from that, especially if there's fires harassing all of your docks. And once again in a position where Rodrixs, as the Vikings, would close out potentially this game, is selling wood for gold, get more ships. As we have docks being repaired, ships going down, fighting for it. On the other side, more fighting going on. Longboats definitely being microed everywhere. But the dock count here for Benanji, currently 7, but as we can see, slowly but surely going down as we see horse collar coming in. We do have almost 2,000 wood in the bank. And that could definitely be turned into some farms, as we see here. Don't think you want to over-invest there on wood too much for the farms, with the limited amount of food or wood on the map. But guard tower coming up as well, so we are thinking about putting up some safe docks in the back. Would not be opposed to maybe a tower there as well. And I think this is a moment for Rodrixs to maybe breathe a little bit, think about his eco is going to stone as well. Has the stone for a castle. Could potentially go for that transport. Drop it somewhere. What is the scouting looking like for Rodrixs? Rodrixs, of course, can see around the whole island, but does not have a clue about what is going on the interior. What are the TC placement, as the wood line here runs out. So Benanji in like a position where, as more docks go down, tower could potentially be denied. No, fires cannot hit over the tower, unfortunately, so the tower will go up. And the tower will then deal with the ships, as we have a castle versus castle action coming up. Loom finally coming in here for Rodrixs, as Loom already was in for Benanji. Castle goes up, but Imperial Age is clicked for Rodrixs, and I think with that Rodrixs will take this game, as he is the person who is first to a castle on his opponent's island. As a solid eco at home. As I say, that 12 farms usually is not really a solid eco, but for all the water fighting that is going on, definitely a solid eco. Docks are still going down for Benanji. And my thoughts on the new Viking DLC, I don't know. Oh, we see a castle here in the middle as well. Trying to secure those relics. Now, of course, it is standard victory, so technically we could win with a wonder or with relic victory as well. As we will see some Manaspas heroes from Benanji. Rodrixs is going for his berserkers. But I'm not sure about the new Viking DLC. I think we'll get there when we get there. I have no clue what the civs will do. What they will look like, what their bonuses will be. But I do think that the trend of the new civs has been basically all the cool stuff that usually was like attack for civs is currently just a civ bonus. As the castle here for Rodrixs looks like it will stay up for now. No, it will not. The ram will finish it off right as Imperial Age hits, but with Chemistry Bracer on the way. Cannon galleons can definitely start cannon galleoning along the shorelines. And Benanji nowhere near Imperial Age. But I do hope that the new civs will focus a bit on water. Of course, the Viking or Norse civs, I think, would be a better term now for the civs, like especially since Vikings may get a rework as well. I think the Norse civs in general throughout history have had a reputation of infantry and water. So I assume that is what we will get, infantry and water civs. But I would not be surprised to see a cavalry focused civ as well. As we see the first cannon galleon out. Rodrixs, Benanji, Res, looking like Imp Res. Has the stone for 2 castles. Desperately microing the ram, but ram will perish. Ships are chilling around the dock there for Rodrixs. Not really killing the dock just yet though. Benanji getting some room to breathe. Putting up a lot of towers. Maybe it's time to think about disabling the range mod there for now, since it's getting a bit cluttered with all the docks and towers there going up. Castle though is being sieged by the cannon galleons. 4 of them to be exact. Towers, not sure if that is the correct call. Even with Swan towers, I don't think you would want them here in front of the cannon galleons. Of course, the Georgians do repair cheaper. But I think Benanji currently is just delaying the inevitable. Although military numbers are slowly but surely getting more and more in favor. Rodrixs, although Rodrixs still not 200 pop. I would have expected an extra TC at least. Especially with the double workshop control. Did invest into fish and did get gill nets as well, or is getting gill nets, I should say. But Benanji, imp is in, bracer is the first thing that's clicked. As the docks are going down, this wood line is very rangeable. It is only 685 wood. But so far that is 685 wood that is denied. Heavy warships and chemistry are clicked as well. The market is now being arranged by the elite cannon galleon, as we see elite longboats coming in as well. 19 currently on the screen, but there is 45 in total. Part of that is roaming around here. Part of that is roaming around the back. Oh, wait, that is not... That is just cannon galleons. And a fire. That is quite risky, I would say, as we see... I'm not even going to try to pronounce Boxvegard. I definitely murdered that. Coming in for the Viking player, as we see keep coming in for Benanji, desperately trying to hold on to his back dock positions. And I think could definitely hold on to it if he would choose to fight the cannon galleons with the galleons here. Especially since the cannon galleons are not being microed that much. I would have loved to see just like 3 or 4 longboats with those. As one towers is in Zvan keeps, I should say. As the keep upgrade finally finishes. But this is definitely not a fight you want to take against the longboats. And it might be time here for Benanji to start thinking about calling that GG, as he is desperately trying to still get some wood. But his wood line here is all that is left, as well as this small wood line here. But GG is called. Rodrixs taking game number 2 with the Vikings. Not unexpected, but I do have to say it took a lot longer than I would have expected. Quickly turn on the lights. So Rodrixs with the Vikings taking game number 3. Going ahead 2-1 in the series. Could potentially end it here in game number 4. We quickly go over the statistics, but I think there's not a lot to say here. I think the Vikings on water are just the Vikings on water. We saw the Vikings win, Georgians lose. And there is a short 1-minute spec delay that we need to wait for, but we will see before match next. With some civs that I would have not expected here. Because up next we will have Rodrixs with the Vietnamese. Which honestly I think the Vietnamese I kind of expected here with the civs that were left. But we also have the Chinese here. Which is the civ I would have expected for Wangshuang Mountain Madness, if I'm honest. So I'm not sure what we will end up seeing on that map, if we even get there, of course. But we shall see. For now, I'm waiting on Capture H to do its thing. And here we go. Capture H is in. All right. We are caught up to a lifetime. We have a Benanji playing in the gray as the Chinese, for starting with a few more villagers. Did get Loom. Did not get Loom. Alright. We did get one trade workshop. We did get the other trade workshop as well. We have the king. We have a king for Rodrixs trying to contest, but given that there is already 2 militia out for Benanji, King wisely decides maybe this is where I should send my peasants and not myself. Will potentially try to capture the other trade workshop, seeing that the king and militia are out for Benanji on the top. But will face the scout from Benanji there as well. Of course, the scout in the Dark Age will not be enough to kill the king in terms of speed. As the king once again sees the scout and decides, my peasants will do my dirty work. And I definitely forgot about the regicide start res change there, Chipmunk. Thanks for reminding me. As Benanji's map here is looking quite good. Walling this off, securing quite a bit of wood there. Of course, no other rest that is over there, unfortunate for him. But looking at the map for Rodrixs, definitely a lot harder to wall to the side and a lot less rest there. As the king currently just scouting out and about for both players. Oh no, never mind. Rodrixs garrisoned both the king and the scout. Scout slowly healing up. But 2 militia out there patrolling the workshop on top, and the workshop on the bottom is being protected by the scouts. And for Feudal Age, for Benanji, we will have Market Blacksmith. And then, of course, Castle Age. As the king for Benanji. Not going straight for the castle, but just admiring the work of his peasants. As the scout from Rodrixs did try, but failed to capture the workshop, as Castle Age is clicked right as Rodrixs is reaching the Feudal Age. Definitely advantage there for Benanji. Rodrixs, also Market Blacksmith, will click up, getting double bit, and Horse Collar coming in for Benanji. And Rodrixs clicking up to the Castle Age is a minute behind. But stone being bought here from Benanji I would not be surprised to see 2 TCs being dropped. For Rodrixs went to stone instead. But I don't think he will have the wood count to drop TCs immediately. Is going out for a spare though. So could start thinking about maybe getting the workshop at the bottom, and it definitely looks like he's going for that one. The scout will get the first hit. Yes. The spear arrives. I think Benanji will have to give up the workshop. And there we go. Rodrixs will control 1 workshop. As we see 1 TC being dropped here. As we will see Bosa coming in. And we will see another TC dropped for Benanji. Meanwhile, Castle Age 2 seconds away for Rodrixs. 1 TC being dropped. Second one not really there. Wood is not really there, unfortunately. I think that is partly because of the lack of trade workshop control. As we will lose the trade workshop once again to the Chukonus from Benanji. Rodrixs not in the greatest of positions here, as the Chinese has the advantage of PC timing, Castle Age timing, and of course controlling both workshops. Although we now have control of one of the workshops for the Vietnamese, and with the Rattan archers being out, Chukonu will need to be a bit careful, although Bodkin Arrow will come in, and with the numbers advantage, I think Rodrixs needs to run away here. As Benanji once again controls all the workshops. But Rattan Archers versus Chukonus. No ballistics. No armor. Only Bracer. Bracer for both players. Or Bodkin for both players. Not Bracer. We are not in the Imperial Age yet. Definitely a fight in favor of the Rattan Archers. But as the Chukonu run away up top, I think the plan was for the new Chukonu to capture the workshop. As it is only 2 TCs here for Rodrixs. Maybe investing a bit too much in the Rattan Archers. Or not investing enough. Although you can only train them so much with 1 castle. No villagers on stone here for Benanji, who has the 3 TC boom. Only 16 farms though, not enough to keep the villagers pumping out of the TCs, but with double workshop it works out, as we see the 3rd TC finally coming up for Rodrixs. And with the Chukonu and ballistics, I think Benanji is in a good position to keep control of the workshops, although if we look at the workshop at the bottom, definitely not in a good position. Unless the micro is there. And the micro is there. But I think the number advantage at this point simply too much in favor of Rodrixs. And the Chukonu will eventually perish to the archer fire. And Rodrixs once again claims one of the workshops, but I think Benanji so far done a great job of just using the workshops in his advantage, and Rest Collected is so far ahead, 20 villagers ahead as well, and I think that comes down to having both of the workshops in the Dark Age, early Feudal Age, as we are once again fighting over the workshop. On the bottom, Benanji regains control, and it is 10 Chukonu, or not, 17 Chukonu versus 10 Rattan Archers, as the Rattan Archers decide to group up to launch an all-out attack on the bottom workshop there. Remember, there's no ballistics in for Rodrixs. Ballistics is in for Benanji. But Benanji decides this is not worth. I will walk away with my Chukonu alive rather than contesting the workshop. I have gained enough of an advantage with my workshop on the bottom. As Loom comes in, and I think Benanji is slowly but surely starting to think about Imperial Age. We have Wheelbarrow coming in. 39 farms here for Benanji. Double Siege Workshop. Of course, Chinese don't get bombard cannons, but they will get the rocket card. And it feels like Rodrixs on 3 TCs is just playing the catching up game. As the Chukonu here are trying to find some value, will not find it. But of course, potentially try to kill the tower with the king inside of it. Did see the flag on it, so could potentially think about that. But I think Benanji is in a position where he does not need to go for the king side. Will need to fight with his units though, as we lose a lot of Chukonu for free. And especially against the anti-archer Rattan unit. Maybe it's time to think about another unit, and it is going to be Fire Lancers. And I think we are getting a Fire Lancer ram push. The Fire Lancer ram push, I think, will start when Imperial Age is in. And final armor is in. Rodrixs is floating quite a lot of stone, but not quite there yet for another castle. Rest Collected still heavily in favor of Benanji, who is still ahead 20 villagers, even though he is up to him. Still no ballistics there for Rodrixs, so a lot of these shots will miss. But with the movement speed of both units, the Rattan Archers will catch up and will eventually kill the Chukonu, as there is no more Chukonu left on the map, only Fire Lancers, as we will see Capt Ram Elite Fire Lancer collect first, final armor coming in as well. And what will Rodrixs do now that he sees Benanji is in the Imperial Age? His first thought is, I need to secure the trade workshop. By dropping a castle on it, will go for a loom as well. Not a bad shout, all things considered, with the villagers being out there. But I think Benanji currently is just waiting to get his numbers up. He's dropping a few more barracks there. The Rattan Archers cannot really see what is happening. Of course, did see the barracks, but the barracks does not really mean a lot since you start with one, and we will see Siege Ram coming in. So Benanji, I think, if he gets the timing right, and it is 50 seconds until C-Trem is in. It is 3 minutes until Imperial Age is in. And we delete the walls. We just want to go. We want to full send it. 14. Everyone wants to start the game already. Now, Rodrixs might see this. And of course, eventually we'll see this. But I don't think Rodrixs has anything. Like, he has 1 Mangonel and 1 Mangonel, and even 33 Ratna Archers will not be enough to stop what is coming. And Rodrixs now sees the ram push. As he is dropping another TC, is finally getting ballistics as well. Is walling behind desperately. But it is 10 rams filled with 30 plus elite fire lancers. Having the final armor, not the final attack, but don't think it matters that much. And if the Mangonel here cannot do the damage it needs, I think we will see the GG call here. As Imperial Age is about to hit, but like I said, what can you do against this army? And the castle will go down. Of course, the castle does not hold the king. And a lot of these fire lancers are yet to hop out of these rams. And GG is called right as Imperial Age is reached here. Tying up the series 2-2. What a way to end the round of 12. Going to a game number 5. And of course, game number 5 will be played to face Duduju in the round of 8. And a chance to win actual prize money as well, because round of 12 will not receive any prize money. But Benanji here doing a great job of holding control the trade workshops early on, which helped him set up his eco to basically ignore the trade workshops in late game because his eco was so far ahead. We see almost 6,000, 7,000 rests collected ahead there at the end of the game. As we will have the Vietnamese and the Chinese. First pick there for Benanji, and third pick for Rodrixs, although not sure if pick really describes it there. As I also realize I need to update the scores here. To make it 2-2. As we will hop into the final game. The players currently are in the lobby, or at least Benanji is in the lobby. As I will do a quick status update on the Andy versus Arc set, because I will be dropping in the middle of that after this game. And it looks like Freakin' Andy versus Arc is currently being played on game number 3 already? Or is it game number 4? I am not sure. We might just get Rex from this. Actually, if this game goes long. But in that case, I'll just guess them as Rex. I think Rodrixs might be taking a short break here, given that he is not in the lobby. Lobby has opened 5 minutes ago. Of course, with the spec delay, we are a little bit behind. As the lobby just got rehosted. Or it just disappeared and then reappeared again. That's also a possibility. But given that we are in a little bit of a break, as both players are in the lobby, I will quickly run an ad here so the ads don't interfere with the game that is about to come. Game number 5, and I will quickly run an ad. I will also be right back. I will be back when the players have joined the lobby, as they are both in the lobby. But when the spec delay is over. I'll be right back. Returned. The players have started. I will set up capture H so that it will actually capture the game. As we will have the Georgians here for Rodrixs and the Britons for Benanji. As we will have Wang Shuang Mountain Madness, and I will speed up a little bit, but not too much. Trying to catch up to lifetime, as there will be a lot going on. We have 12 villagers to 10. Not a lot of vill fighting yet, but the first villagers are coming forward. There is a small advantage here for Rodrixs as he had the scout. Scout still alive. One scout still alive for Rodrixs. Two scouts alive for Benanji as we have one villager attempting to fight the scout. Will not be able to fight the villager and the scout. But so far 2 versus 2 in terms of trade workshops. As more villagers are being sent forward and the weak villager will make it out alive in the end. One idle villager at the bottom there. As we will have a militia out for Rodrixs. 2 militia out for Rodrixs. Heavily investing into the Dark Age. And we will have now 2 workshops for Rodrixs, 2 for Benanji, but the bottom and top one flipped. We have more villager fighting, and this I think will be getting close to lifetime as we have more and more villagers coming. Get your boxing gloves out in the chats. As Rodrixs is pushed away by Benanji with the villager numbers, but villager numbers here relatively equal. One villager going down for both players. Benanji though still holding on to the trade workshop. Meanwhile at the bottom 2 militia is all that is needed to defend it. Benanji snuck out to the workshop in the middle of Rodrix's starting PC, holding 3 workshops now. Rodrixs making a house. Benanji clicking up to the feudal age. Rodrixs though not that far behind. Not in a great position to fill fight with the villagers holding the hill advantage there. Also the advantage in villager count there for Benanji heavily in his favor as we have the militia now for Benanji coming out. No more militia on the bottom, but one villager building a house is holding the line at the bottom. As the villagers here tried to sneak a wall around the workshop, as Rodrixs reclaims his workshop, there is one militia now that claimed the workshop between Benanji's DCs, as we have a man-at-arms fighting some villagers that were Vil fighting. Outpost here giving some vision. And Rodrixs with towers. Benanji with towers. Benanji actually on stone, so could potentially tower again. Tower will go up here for Rodrixs as well, as we have a tower v tower war. Fletching though will be in for Benanji as we have reached a lifetime. Fletching coming in for Rodrixs as well. As the man-at-arms. Oh, I thought they were going to loop around here as well, but apparently not. The Idleville here still holding the line for the workshop, and the workshop on top is the one that is actually being contested. Tower will be... yeah, that will definitely go down, although I think these archers in the tower, as there is one villager inside the tower desperately repairing. Or it's 4 villagers inside the tower desperately repairing. In that case, the tower from Benanji will actually go down. As the archers come out, archers should have been here trying to snipe the repair vills. As we have one villager going down. Eco KD so far 7 for Benanji. And we might have lost a villager there to wildlife as well. As the KD currently 14-7 in favor of Rodrixs, as is reflected in the eco count, although part of that is also just the idle time. Benanji is idling quite a bit there. Of course, it is a 2TC map, so there is a lot that you need to worry about. But Rodrixs now controlling 3 of the workshops. Benanji only 1 between his TCs. Although I still think the workshop at the bottom could have been contested a bit more. There's this dude. If we have a name in chat, I can name the dude that is holding the line at the bottom. But archers might be thinking about looping around. And that might be the end there. Or the villager that is holding the line. But with that being said, villagers still roaming around. Wonder if the archers from Benanji are spotted as the villager moves. More villagers, no, archers definitely spotted as the trade workshop switches sides. Castle Age 1 minute 40 away there for Rodrixs. He was desperately putting up a tower to keep his gold / wood / berries safe. Although currently there's only a lumber camp. I'd love to see a few houses here as well to prevent the archers from diving. Palisade gate and house work as well. Although palisade gates notoriously bad for their armor when they are unfinished. Not sure what this palisade wall will do for the archers, but perhaps it will work. More palisade gates coming down. Scouts coming in. Definitely not the moment I think Rodrixs would have wanted to send his scouts. But the scouts will deal with the archers with some help from the skirms. Second armor and light cav coming in. I think the villager there clicking the elephant. Well, villager is noticed. I think that might have been a misclick. Looks like it definitely was a misclick. As the light cav upgrade is coming in, we have more archers here. As Rodrixs reclaims the workshop at the bottom, a lot of villagers trying to fight the now light cav, but that is not a unit you want to be fighting. As we have skirms, we have light cav trying to deal with the archers. As a castle is coming up, there is a 22 villager count here for Benanji, who is desperately rushing up an army. Will, I think, deny the castle here. Don't think there is enough villagers. As we have 6 villagers. Castle at 90%. Villagers are being focused down. And the castle is denied at 94.5%. And even with all those villagers going down, eco count is still relatively equal as Benanji decides to drop a 3rd TC. I don't think that is a bad shout considering there is 13 more vills on the way. And it's only 5% left on the castle. And castle goes up. Villagers can safely walk away. Could potentially place a mining camp here around stone as well to potentially get another castle. But Rodrixs here is in a great position, having the forward castle staking out the towers as well. And Rodrixs just using the mobility of the light calf to try to find damage, and has done a great job with that. It's on stone here, has quite the long walking distance though. So we have a rocket card in queue for Rodrixs as well. And I would not be surprised if we see a lot of these vills suddenly starting to move forward as well, as we have the stone for another castle. And as I say that, there we go. Although I'm not sure if I like the villager count here. It is enough. And the castle will range the TC. Will range the gold as well. But well, the castle will go up. I don't think there's enough army there. Like, the crossbows are simply too late to deny the castle. We'll get some Vil kills though. And as I say that they are too late to deny the castle, suddenly there's only one Vil left, and the last villager dies as well before the castle can be completed. But once again, more villagers are coming. As Rodrixs is in control of all the workshop, the TC at the bottom has died. The gold villagers here are harassed by the iron pagodas from the Jurgens being created out of the castle. Castle goes up, and I think with this, Benanji's chances of advancing to the next round are dwindling by the second. And GG is called. Rodrixs is victorious and will go on to the next round to face Duduju. What a game, what a series. And what a set. In a great game number 5. And we can see the early militia here. And then the men-at-arms paying off. A lot of archer investment, of course, from the Britain player. But Rodrixs is the one who finally was able to pull through. And that is even with a draft that he completely randomed. The Jurgens takes the win. And the Britain takes the loss there. What a series there. And I would have not expected Rodrixs, who randomed his draft, to manage to pull out the victory there. Although he did get pretty sick civs, and not even using his essentially first pick Franks. Seems wild to me. But in the meantime, the set of freaking Andy and Ark that actually started later, like an hour later than this set, has already finished. So with that, I will not cast that live, but as a Rex instead. Which is not what I expected. I expected this set to actually finish around the time of the freaking Andy versus Ark set. But instead, it looks like we will be casting that as Rex. Let me get that set up real quick. I will quickly go to this screen so I can set everything up, make sure that everything is correct. But I'm still here. Wait, that is the wrong click. That was my bad. All right, Rick and Andy versus Ark. The drafts are here. Game number 1 will be on the Dutch Blitz. We will have Aftermath and Huangshuang Mountain Madness as home maps for Freaking Andy. And Ark will have Quick Maths and Amazon Aftermath, which is a map that I haven't seen yet in the Pro playoffs yet. Then for Freaking Andy, we will have Berbers, Wu, Georgians, Japanese, Britons, and Aztecs. Spics, Malay, Maya, and Huns as bands. And then for Ark, we will have the Hindustanis, Georgians, Dravidians, Bohemians, Malians, and Bengalis as the picks. And for bands, we will have Chinese, Spanish, and Italians, which feel like bands for quick mats. But without further ado, let's hop into game number 1, round of 8, Freaking Andy versus Ark. Yes, we will have the Dravidians for Ark in the blue and the Japanese in the orange for Freaking Andy. Yes, Freaking Andy is already bringing in his first boar. Not lose a villager there. Ark, though, has collected the trade workshop on the right side of the map. On the left side of the map, Freaking Andy is the one to control it. And looks like freaking Andy just immediately went out to that trade workshop on the left side for Ark. Immediately went out to the workshop on the right side. And workshop here on the... It's for the taking. Freaking Andy, though, is just patrolling his scout. Japanese are going for the barracks. A relatively early barracks, but of course with the income from the workshop, some funky shenanigans can happen. Yes, Ark over here is... Might have potentially seen some sheep here and got them. Yes, Andy... I think Andy still has his sheep. But Ark just leaving the workshop as is has the advantage of just being able to push the deer. We'll have quite a bit on wood there and could potentially go out for a dog. We'll need to scout for a good dog position though. And I think a dog position there on the right side of the map, or on the right side of his island, is definitely a solid position. And he still has his scout patrolling, but has two militia out on the field and has taken control of the bottom workshop. And how did game 5 finish? With a bang. Definitely go back to watch how game number 5 finished. But game number 5 finished with a lot of vil fighting. Like, I think the most vil fighting we've seen so far, or saw so far in the set. I mean, that is also to be expected from Wang Shuang Mountain Madness. But lots of vil fighting and also a few doubt castle drops into successful castle drops. And you could not get rigged into Regicide Rumble. That is very unfortunate. I tried yesterday, but also was not able. And completely understand why you would fear the map. I think the double TC on itself, like for example on Budapest, is already so much chaos, and then you bring in the workshop, as we have the scout there for Ark, as Loon comes in, so Villager could fight that, but I think the scout, since the scout got the first hit, ooh, no, actually it looks like the Villager is still winning. So Ark will need to run away. Ark slight eco advantage, but not up yet to the feudal age, as freaking Andy is up to the feudal age. Has collected over 500 more resources, and I think part of that is just taking control of both of the workshops here. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of idle time, even with workshop control. I think part of that is just all of the chaos with vil fighting and double TC, making all the houses that you need to have, microing all your villagers, microing your units. I would not be surprised to see, even in the finals, if the game is played in the finals, like the two best players on the map theoretically having so much idle time. And I am indeed not in any division. I am not playing in the tournament. And I'm glad I'm not. There's already so much going on with Zark's apartment being flooded and me taking over the casting. And even when the Pro Division completes, I will be still casting the lower divisions as well. So I think that will take up the time that I would have spent preparing and playing the tournament. Ark, though, is very late with his barracks. As we see Arson coming in. We have men-at-arms already out. We have archers starting to come out. Houses are starting to go down. Ark will be housed if his house will go down. Ark not even in the feudal age yet. Men-at-arms here killing a villager, running away. 4 archers on the field. Let's not do the range yet. More houses are currently about to be housed, is housed, will need to place more houses, and I think this will be a very fast game number 1 from Andy. We placed a tower on the wood line here. It's very heavy on stone, so he's definitely thinking about another tower, but Andy just showing no mercy here versus Ark. As the barracks will go down, although I don't think the barracks will be used. Double range, and I think the double range could actually work against the single range archers from freaking Andy. But with the 8 villagers now on stone, and the archers here killing more villagers, I don't think Ark is in a solid position here. Also keep in mind still, both of the workshops are still in control for freaking Andy. And thanks for the compliment there as well, Chipmunk. I would love to do more casting in the future for other events. Although I'm not sure what those events will be. Most likely will be practice squad events. And I will definitely continue streaming the POV of my tourney sets as well. Although I think that is less popular content. As we have a Hulk out for freaking Andy trying to kill the fishing ships. The dock will go down to the men-at-arms and Ark calls GG. Or the GGG. As freaking Andy will take game number 1. And definitely seeing the elo difference and experience there. Freaking Andy takes game number 1 in a dominant manner. And I think this might be around the time, if we go back to like around 7:30. It might be the moment that Andy got control of both of the trade workshops, was up. And from this point already, like in 7 minutes being 500-600 rest collected ahead. And then having both trade workshops essentially meaning you're up like 6 more villagers. That is just very, very rough to deal with. I think if the roles were reversed, with the elo difference still there, freaking Andy would still be in a very bad position. But let's deal with the civs here as well. As we had the Japanese from freaking Andy win it versus the Dravidians from Ark. In game number 1. And for game number 2, we will go to the map that we haven't seen before, or at least not on my stream. of Amazon Aftermath. So I will also quickly need to update the score there. But without further ado, let's hop into the game. Arc decided blue is not really working for me. Let's switch to red. Let's change the civ to Bohemians. And let's see if that works out for him, as we have freaking Andy playing in the orange once again. This time as the Berbers. And having control of 2 workshops already. Arc going for the top tunnel as well, but finding freaking Andy's scout there. Freaking Andy going for a loom, going for a house. Would not be surprised if he tries to pull these 5. Just Javelina, would call them boars still, but would not be surprised if he would try to pull that. But once again, freaking Andy is going for the barracks. And will most likely lose the workshop at the bottom though. But once again, freaking Andy is going for the early barracks. Would not be, I think, too surprised to see a lot of men-at-arms there. We see Arc going for the top workshop with a Vil now, so could Vil fight that with the scouts? As we have scout versus scout plus villager, and we have 2 Vils versus 1 Vil at the bottom. And I think freaking Andy here will try to make it as annoying as possible. Villager on the bottom is still idle, but the 1 militia is rushing to help his scout friend at the top. This villager is still running. And of course, with the Berbers, you walk faster, so technically you could run away forever. And if there are more villagers, and Berbers can, of course, with the faster walking speed, come with more reinforcements a bit faster. Would just run away indefinitely. That is not what is happening though, and I don't think Arc realizes that he can wall off the passage here so that freaking Andy cannot capture the workshop. But guess what? Workshop is already captured. We have more villager fighting. I'm not sure if this is the Vil fight you want to take. But once again, Berber villager walking speed. The villager from Andy is very low HP, but I think will make it out alive. And he will definitely be having an eye on that 4 HP scout. Maybe not wanting to engage there. I think having the scout alive a bit more valuable. Especially now that there is a full HP Vil in the mix. Villager though, Villager is not going home. Villager will roam around to the other side. I don't think Andy knows. I don't think Andy knows about the walls. I think Andy is trying to send these Vils home this way. Militia definitely knows about the villager. It's Andy behind all of this. Managed to put down a dock and is creating his first fishing ship. Andy once again very far ahead in the rest collected. As the low HP villager from Arc, quick walls, actually managed to quick wall that. Low HP Vil from Andy, not so much. What a noob. Behind all of this though, villager also died. But with control of 3 of the workshops, think Andy is in a very solid position. Once again, 6 militia on the field. Only villagers for Ark. And I think this might be a very fast series, as Ark will manage to quick wall the villager in. At least for now. Ark just going for fish now, as Andy is already having his first fish out. Could go for a second fish with the wood he is floating. Especially with control of all 3 workshops. Like I said, I'm surprised Andy or Ark did not try to go full rage forest here and just pull 5 javelinas at once. Oh boy, Andy is going for it, but he does not know. He does not know about the walls. Andy, no. But he could potentially just palisade here. House trick? No, the javelina was blocking it. The villager could not reach, and the villager will die. And that is actually the second eco kill in favor of Ark. And that happened while he didn't know about it. Meanwhile, freaking Andy just chilling around the wood line. I think this though will be devastating for Ark. We'll definitely lose villagers here. As 1 villager goes down, I think we might see 3 villagers going down here. That is the second one. Third one here. Nope. Third one makes it out. So I am surprised by the fact that Ark did not choose to wall his woodlines and other resources earlier, given that he did see a lot of militia activity in game 1 as well. And Ark decided don't even want to wait until feudal age hits. I'm calling it game number 2 going to Andy as well. We'll quickly go over the statistics, but I think it is more of the same from what we saw in game number 1. Rest collected almost double from Ark, and that is just the power of the trade workshops. And Andy, with the dominant control of 3 of the workshops for most of the game. Ark did break through here, but I think the villager idle time was not worth not having control of the other 2 workshops. So let's go back to the drafts. As the first pick from freaking Andy was used, and we did see the Bohemians. But potentially, with how the games are going so far, this could be the final game. As we will have Aftermath next. The map that started all of it. As we will have Ark once again in the red. Playing as the Georgians this time. And then Andy playing as the Britons in the orange once again, is opening with a barracks. So it is barracks, has the rest for a militia and instantly queues one. Of course, the Britons will gather the sheep faster. And then that combined with the trade workshop capturing will put Andy in a solid position here to keep the villager production going and eventually also going out to the wood line. As we will have another villager here, not sure where she is going. Could potentially be sent to capture the other workshop as we have the first militia out to try and contest that one. Arc ahead in eco, that is mainly because of loom from Andy. And I don't think there is loom yet for Arc. No loom yet. So we will go back to the villager, not villager fighting, the workshop fighting. Scout decides to run away. Villager, though, not really needed there. And Andy once again in control of both workshops. In a very solid position here. Just go up to feudal quickly and go from there. Could potentially also keep pushing out the militia, keep putting on the pressure on Arc. And just win in the Dark Age once again. But so far not a lot happening in this game. I think this is the chillest Dark Age we've seen so far. As Andy is, or was at least, producing a few more militia. Definitely not a bad choice to have a few militia just chilling at the workshops just in case. Now that will set him back a bit in terms of food in the bank to click up, but of course with the trade workshops, I think good decision there, because looking at the rest, already 200 ahead, just 5 minutes into the game. Not even going for the lumber camp, not really needing it. It's 40 up in terms of housing space. Few houses here in front. Those houses, of course, in the Dark Age will not really see a lot. But will eventually, with Town Watch, Town Patrol, notify Andy as well. And it will deter the incoming army from Arc if it is patrolled in or attack moved in. It will attack the houses first, which will give Andy a heads up. Uptimes relatively even. Andy a bit faster. Arc not too far behind though. Although Arc will have to do this on no workshop eco. And as we can see, Andy not on gold, but that gold slowly trickling in, allowing to make a few more militia. And I would really like it if Andy would just go with all the militia, group them up, as we're seeing, actually seeing it. And then once the feudal age hit, get the upgrade. Ooh, as we see a villager here walled in. Could potentially still see a tower here. But that tower would not really deny anything. But for now, let's focus on the militia, soon to be men-at-arms. This Arc reaches the feudal age as well. But 6 men-at-arms versus a wood line that is not reacting, and I think Arc not having the wood for a lumber camp. If Andy just denies the lumber camp, could be game. We will see the stable for Ark. Will choose to play on. One lone villager still escapes. Once again, arson. Andy really loves his civs with arson. And once again, archer follow-up. Villager will wall off the berries. Although I think 6 men-at-arms with arson, not something you would typically encounter in your standard Arabia game. So they will melt the mill, berries will be denied, and then first farm is just coming down. And I think with that, if the berries are denied, especially with the archer here, although the archer could get picked off by the scout, that is a bit sloppy there from Andy to just send his archers. And the villager broke free, but the villager died anyways. And mill still being repaired quite heavily there by Ark, but once again, all the men-at-arms are attacking it. The villager is now repairing. And it is holding, but it's not looking too great. Spearman now being added, fletching added as well. Rest collected. Not really wanting to look at that much. As we have the men-at-arms fighting villagers, men-at-arms fighting scouts, men-at-arms fighting everything that Ark is throwing at it. It will not be enough for freaking Andy here to do a lot of damage, but I think most of the damage is being done by simply having control of the workshops there. As we can see, Ark struggling for resources. If you look at his bank, not really a lot going on there. For Andy, maybe not a lot as well. See another range coming up here, and this one a bit more forward. But Andy, 4 villagers in queue, 4 archers in queue, 2 spears in queue, just queuing and queuing and queuing and just keeping the pressure up here against Ark, who simply just cannot deal with the pressure Andy keeps throwing at him. Spearman poking the villager, avoiding the castle fire, and I think Ark might be saying to himself, why did I have to face freaking Andy? Couldn't I have got an easier opponent in this game, in this set? More villagers are going down. Archery range now coming down though, so potentially could still try to make something happen with skirms. Rest definitely there for skirms, although we're already at 7 archers on the field, and GG is called. Freaking Andy with a very decisive victory here in the round of 8. And I think in all of the games, the strat from Andy was relatively the same. Just try to get control of the workshops, add in some men-at-arms for early pressure, and then follow up with archers. And as we can see, the APM roughly the same. But freaking Andy just showing his experience in the game. I would say freaking Andy is one of the most well-rounded players in the game, playing in a lot of weird settings as well. Some of the more unknown settings. Definitely definitely someone you should fear. And for me, I think freaking Andy is the favorite to win it all. Go back to the draft here. We saw the Georgians lose. And then the Britons win. Freaking Andy taking it 3-0. And if we take a look at the brackets, or at least if I take a look at the bracket, I don't have it set up for stream just yet. Also partly because I want to avoid spoilers. We will have Rodrixs versus Duduju in the quarterfinals. Rodrixs, of course, winning his set today. So that set still needs to be scheduled, most likely. Then we have, on the other side of the bracket, Tofu versus Ola Dushak. Also still needs to be scheduled as far as I'm aware. The winner of that set will face freaking Andy. The winner of the Duduju versus Rodrixs set will face Overtaken, who took down Doubt in 5 games in the quarterfinals. And then, of course, we will have a grand finals. Up until the semifinals, all games are a best of 5. Only the grand finals will be a best of 7. Best of 7 will also have the twist of not having a map draft. We'll only have a Civ draft, with game number 1 being picked by the higher seed. And then the loser picks the next map. So it will not only be a game of who will draft the best civs, but also how can you tactfully draft your civs in a way that it can be played on all maps, or at least the maps you think your opponent will pick if they lose. But with that being said, it is getting quite late here. I have been live for roughly 3 hours. So I will leave it at that, and I will be back probably sometime early next week. I don't think I will be back during the weekend. But if sets are late during the weekend, I will cast them after the week. And we'll cast them on Monday. So hopefully see you guys then. And I hope you guys have a very nice weekend. Bye-bye.